All right, how you doing, Mr. DJ? Adjusting the camera, raring to go. A couple of videos tonight. Due to time constraints, counting down this fancy playlist of March. What's the date? March 18th, 1983. Here it is. Yes, indeed, boy, it looks pretty neat. Not as wrinkled up as some of the other fancy playlists. And well, I'm up to number nine. I'm gonna get to number 18 later on. Mostly standards as you get into the top 20, top 18, top 17 of this fancy playlist. And I really like to talk about the Lost 45s. That's what I'm really into. And I'm going to bring on an extra, top 40 extra. Top 40 extra, which is about right in here. And if you can read the chicken scratch, and I got a number of album cuts listed on here as well. Boy, I went to town on this fancy playlist. Um, an ad. Some of the new records I've added on this fancy playlist. Try Again by Champagne. You probably remember that one. Red Skies by The Fix. Red Skies, they were Saved by Zero, another hit by them. And then there was One Thing Leads to Another in the fall of '83. But the song I want to talk to you about, a song that I added on this fancy playlist. Got one by Eddie Money on here too, but what the hell is it? I can't even read my own handwriting. I scratched the title out. Well, I guess I'll get it later on. Let's talk about the system. You Are in My System. Some smooth R&B, some smooth dance music. I mean, it's smooth. It's sublime. You Are in My System by the System. Well, here's the deal about the System. Consisted of basically the two main players in this act is David Franks. He's the keyboard player, maestro keyboard player, session keyboard player, and Mike Murphy, a vocalist that plays some guitar, some of the high-tech synthesizers. This is how they met. David Franks got a break to play keyboards, toured with a group called Clear, K-L-E-E-E-R, Clear, or Clear, and he was invited to tour with this band by Atlantic Records. As a keyboard player, David Franks. Guess who was the road manager? Mike Murphy. And they met, and Mike Murphy said, David, you know, you're a great keyboard player. But David Frank didn't realize that Mike Murphy had some singing chops, had some vocal chops. The guy could sing, but he didn't know it at the time. You'll find out later, though. David Frank, I guess it was after the tour, he was in New York City working on a record by Madonna, pre-famous Madonna. I mean, before she got big. And the record, the track, is working on a track, evolved into a track, It's Passion. It was called It's Passion. But Madonna, I'm not into this. She had some creative differences, and she bowed out. She just left. Just forget it. And David Franks, he contacted Mike Murphy. He remembered Mike Murphy from the funk band Clear, and they got together. And boy, they banged it up. They took the track "It's Passion" and Atlantic Records took a listen, or the record company took a listen to it. Said, "We're signing you guys. We're signing you up." And they released "It's Passion." It took off in New York City. It was a big radio hit in New York City. Did well in the clubs in New York City. It did so well in the Big Apple. I mean, we're talking a major market. New York City, you know, it's the biggest city in the United States, one of the biggest cities in the world. And when you get a big buzz like that in New York City, well, sometimes you get an advance from the record company to make your first album. The album Sweat. You Are in My System off that album. Didn't do too well though on the pop charts. Wasn't played that much on top 40 radio. Contemporary hit radio. Went to number 64 on Billboard's Hot 100. A dismal number 89 in England. Didn't make it in England. It'd been a perfect British hit. Got that European, a little bit of that, a faint echo of that European dance music in this track. You're in My System. By the way, I believe it was Mike Murphy who came up with the name System, in My System. And went top 10 on the dance charts. Did well on R&B. Well, actually went to number 14 on the dance charts. Went top 10 on R&B. Played on the R&B radio stations. believe WTUG here in Tuscaloosa was on it. But they had a much bigger hit. You might remember spring 1987. Don't Disturb This Groove. Got another fantastic smooth R&B record. Man, throwing down. David Franks and Mike Murphy coming in. Well, actually not charting on my fancy playlist, but an ad on my fancy playlist. You Are In My System by The System. March 18th, 1983 fantasy playlist.